giving such incredible results to people that it was very hard to believe that you could get these results just from taking shakes and replacing meals and having the kind of results that all of you just stood up and showed. And that there were companies that were not happy about it. By the way, also there were some distributors that were making some claims probably and saying some things about the products, right? That probably, even though maybe it was true, it probably was not the kind of thing you would talk about. And you know what happened in 1985? The government came and they said, Herbalife, you're saying that you're changing people's lives and that you're changing their health, and the company was attacked. And so Mark Hughes had to go in front of the Senate in the United States, and he was basically inquiried by the Senate over this period of time about the products, and this was all around weight loss. And I just love the fact that he's sitting there saying, if all those experts were such experts, then why were they so overweight in a nice way? And then he was strong enough to say, I think they should be on Herbalife, all of those people. Yes? So, he had a vision, the products. He knew in his heart what Herbalife was doing, and he was willing to go to battle for it and to stand bold. And so in 1985, you could see the company was attacked. And you know what happened? Because of the fact that it got so much media, because of the fact that, everybody at that time was like, oh, Herbalife, it was being attacked by the government, that there was an impact on the business. And if you look at it, it took all the way through 1991 for the company to start to gain momentum back. And what happened was in 1991, the company really started to look and say, you know what? Instead of just focusing on North America, let's also grow around the world. And so when you look at the history and you look at the kind of growth that we had, you look at these periods of growth, and then if you look at 1997, there was kind of a period that kind of started to become flat. And if you look at all the way through 2004, the company was a little bit flat. Do you know what happened in that time? The company had opened up many markets around the world, and most of the people were focused on the business opportunity. They would go to the markets, and I was one of those people that traveled around the world, and we were talking more about the business opportunity than actually the customers. And the products worked for people, the results were amazing, but we were really focused on expansion and really more focused on bringing new associates in than we were about thinking about the customers and making sure the customer experience and the customer results was the foundation. And so we had this flat period of time. And so what ended up happening is, as associates and leaders, what we understood that we needed to figure out the solution to go to the market and bring customers and take care of the customers. And Mark always said it. He said, if you care more about your customers and the results that they get than about the money you make from them, that's the way that you're going to build a big business. But it took a while for the lessons to come in. But when we figured it out, look what started to happen. And at that time, what really started to happen is we started to create a lot of ways of getting customers and taking care of customers. We created the wellness evaluation, the total plan, a lot of things that got created. And one of the biggest, most amazing things that got created at that time was in Mexico, where nutrition clubs started to become something that the company was doing. And in the very beginning, by the way, how many of you here in India work with nutrition clubs? You have one virtual, or you have one physical, or you have both, okay? Every one of you. Do you want to know something? There was a couple in Mexico that for the very first time had an idea of operating a nutrition club, and for the first time ever in the history of the company, they said, we don't want to sell a program to someone. We want someone to be able to come to our house, come to our location, and to be able to have a shake, a a tea, and an aloe, and we don't want to do it just through a program. And you know what happened at that time? Thank goodness Michael Johnson had come to the company, because Michael, he was open-minded. When he saw that what they were doing in Mexico, even though in the history of the company no one had ever sold a product that was not a closed product to someone, and this couple that started this in Zacatecas, Mexico, what they were doing when the company looked at it, and Michael looked at it, he said, this is doing good. This is getting people to use the products every single day. And he said, I don't care if we've never done this before, we're gonna let them do it. And not everyone wanted them to continue to do it. In fact, the other leaders in Mexico, they didn't like what was going on in the beginning, because they looked at the Nutrition Club and they said, that's not the way we do Herbalife. Herbalife is done this way, the same way we've done it for 20 years. This is a new way of doing it. That's not Herbalife. But Michael had the vision, he had the strength, and the leadership team within the company said, no, we're going to allow it. Let me ask you a question. What if Michael had said, no, this is not Herbalife. We're never going to do that. We're only going to sell products that are sold complete. We're never going to give someone a chance to try the products in a club or in a home, okay, without buying the full program to actually consume the products on a daily basis for 3 days, for 7 days, for 14 days. If he would have said no, then would this room be full of 16,000 people today? Or would Herbalife look different and your lives look different? Because maybe Herbalife never had the success it had in India, and you would have never found Herbalife and you never would have been in this room. So very big lesson. As a company, as leaders, you've got to be looking forward into the future, not closed-minded to the way things have always been. And so this is part of the legacy of Herbalife. We've always had leadership that have looked into the future, and they were willing to question the things that we were doing to be able to say, is there a better way? Is there another way? Looking inside of the distributors and the way that they're operating, are there things that they're doing that could be something? And if you look at the history of India, this is also part of the history. You know, India, when it started, and it's very interesting to look at, by the way, because, you know, you have in 1999, it's very small here, right? But 2000, you have this blip. And then look what you have 2001 all the way from 2008. Basically flat. Do you know what happened actually then? In 2000, and I was here at that time, what were we more focused on? Bringing new members into the company. What were we not focused on so much? Actually making sure that the customer experience was so good that there was a level of sustainability, and that the business models that we did brought sustainability and duplication and growth. And so there was a period of flat. Also, nutrition clubs were not something that we were doing in India at that time. What ended up happening is some people started to adopt nutrition clubs. And what happened through nutrition clubs is that the customers, they came, they had a great experience, they got amazing results.